Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the DEEPMATTER Group half-year results investor presentation. Throughout this presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted at any time using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Please just simply type in your question and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. These will be available via your Investor Meet company dashboard, and we will send you an email when they're ready for your review. I'd also like to remind you that this presentation is being recorded. Before we begin, we would like to submit the following poll, and if you would give that your kind attention, we would be most grateful. And I'd now like to hand over, if I may, to Fraser Benson, CFO, and Mark Warne, CEO from DEEPMATTER Group. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, and thanks very much. So, good morning to all of the shareholders and participants in this call. Fraser and I would like to welcome you to our first half results for 2021. And so we're going to dive straight in. The agenda that we propose to cover today will involve an overview of the period. We'll give you a reminder of our business and our markets that we're operating in, provide you with a summary of recent developments. Fraser will provide an overview of the finances for the period, and then we'll sum up with an outlook for the year ahead and into the next few years. So let's just start by saying that we think that the first half of 2021 has been a year of positive momentum, focused on execution, both commercially and operationally for the business. We'll tell you a little bit more later about some of the increasing commercial traction that we have with large pharma, with sort of mid-size organizations, CROs, and with some of the scientific publishers. I will talk to the data growth strategy and technology integration strategy, which is key to creating a product focused on the digitization of chemistry and a fully scalable and integrated platform for the future of chemical reaction data. And I'll talk to you a little bit about some of our initiatives which are cementing our industrial relationships and with both large corporates and key opinion leaders in the space, which is the future for building our sales pipeline. I'd also like to call in on the fact that we continue to resource our research and development activities, focusing on feedback from trials and early adopter requirements to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our industrial partners and increasing the scalability of our product. And all of these activities together that we've been focused on in the first half of this year are enabling us to deliver planned growth and performance for 2021 and beyond. So, as I've said, I'm going to go first into just a short overview of our business and markets for those who either aren't familiar or would like a reminder of the space that we operate in. So at DEEPMATTER, we are building a unique, fully integrated digital chemistry platform. And as I said previously, we are established as a leader in the digitization of chemistry, driving this shift. And what we want to be able to do is build a system that provides the best chemical reaction data for certain scientists working in R&D. And that's not just chemical reaction data that they explore and use in the sort of office area, but actually in the laboratory itself. And that means integrating chemistry with technology, which ultimately results in improvements in productivity in the lab and the ability to develop and discover new chemical molecules and chemical routes that are the future of intellectual property for those pharmaceutical companies. And as we build out that digital data platform, which can be shared through the cloud, we're also enabling artificial intelligence-driven chemical automation, which is now starting to come to the fore in our industry. So our strategy is to exploit growing market opportunity and demand in the digitization or digitalization of chemistry by developing data and a cloud delivery platform with real-time machine learning and AI capabilities built into the platform to allow analytics and ultimately control. The execution of that strategy really falls into 3 buckets. The first is that we look to create value for our customers from aggregated data that we collect and then analyze using machine learning technologies. This is sort of all the rage for our customer group. Second strategy then is to ensure that we provide faster and actionable insights from that data analysis. So that means not only providing a summary of the data to those operating in an office environment, but actually being able to apply live, real-time feedback into the laboratory itself, allowing a chemist to ultimately change what they're doing on the fly. And then the last area is to continue to grow that data and with our integrated cloud-based platform, use that data not only to be able to guide a chemist, but ultimately to be able to control the robotics that will make the lab environment both safer, more environmentally friendly, and more cost effective, allowing scientists to focus on what they are best at, which is discovery. When we're building our products, we're acutely aware of the customer need. And I just wanted to sort of touch on the drivers that are driving or influencing where we are placing our R&D resources and our sales and marketing resources. The first is to say that if you take a look at the management focus within the organizations that we sell to, they are focused on productivity gain. And there is acceptance in that market that there is a 35% gain in reducing human error and costs with digitalization technologies being embedded in the lab. And so that's a real important selling point for us to demonstrate those productivity gains. We've done that with some work that we conducted earlier this year with a CRO, and which will be published in due course. The second is to ensure that we enable innovation. So the intellectual property that drives pharmaceutical companies comes from identifying novel chemical entities and novel chemical routes. So we don't just want to tell the chemists how to do what they knew how to do, but we want them to tell them something new. And the unique insights to discover new chemical entities and routes is a critical component of what our platform must deliver for our customer base. And then the last area that we know that the management teams are really focused on is compliance. So social, safety, environmental, and regulatory considerations are key. And I think what we've done with our digital glassware platform and IC Synth platform is deliver something that allows productivity gain, innovation, and compliance to be demonstrated and realized with our customer base. And the adoption by management teams is underpinned by these 3 component parts. But we don't just sell to a management team. We want to sell to essentially the user community within those pharmaceutical companies as well. And so the platform not only needs to provide these sort of aggregate behaviors of productivity, innovation, and compliance, but must also provide specifics for the users in hand. So the scientific user experience is underpinned by reliable data, and you will have heard me talk about reproducibility in the past. And the scientists want to confidently and productively perform that chemistry themselves and realize the benefits as individuals as well as organizations. They want that data co-located in one place, and that underpins the importance of our cloud-based strategy, cloud-first strategy, and enables the best use of machine learning and AI to make innovative discoveries. And finally, the whole of our platform has been built to collect and structure data, but also ultimately to be able to manifest that in some level of control, so machine code. And that machine code will ultimately be used with chemical robotics And so that is a driver for the users on the ground to understand that they can migrate from doing the data work and control themselves, but to be able to put it on the increasingly prevalent automated platforms that exist in the market. When our customers come to us, we go to them, but they actually inbound come to us either through our digital marketing strategy or ultimately through word of mouth, as we're more and more understood to be the leader in the digitization of chemistry in our space. The unique capabilities that we have in hand are what ultimately will convince a customer to go from engaging with us to actually paying their bills. And that data extraction and aggregation is a really important part of what we do and part of the reason that we acquired the original Infochem business which is now integrated throughout the group. We perform instrument integration, and you'll have seen previously announcements with the likes of Waters, and there are other companies that we work with now to integrate their technology, and that provides us not only data, which is valuable to our customer base, but a route to those customers that we can engage with. We enable real-time monitoring and time-course data collection. This is a real differentiator and is the area that sort of interests most of our early adopters, as well as those interested in the control of chemical robotics. We perform automated structuring and cleanup of data, and this is an area that, interestingly, in the market at the moment is now coming to the fore. So I think there's a lot of focus not only on creating new data, but also on treating the old data that pharmaceutical companies have had languishing on their servers. And that database structuring and cleanup, I think, will remain a core part of our business over the next few years. We search, we mine, we analyze, predict, using very traditional data analysis tools, but also the state-of-the-art machine learning capabilities. Our cloud-based platform means that we share globally, and as I think we've described previously, we have customers in all corners of the globe. And we enable robotic control and automation. And this is an area which is probably the preserve of early adopters right now, but is the future of our market. So, all of this focus of ours has got us today to being established as a leader in the digitalization of chemistry, driving the market shift. We've got 40 customers globally right now, 50% of the top 10 pharma, some of whom are full customers and some of whom are in the trial phase. And I think we'll try to talk to some of those customers in subsequent slides. I think it's also just worth saying that while we are, where we are today as a business, actually we continue to see growth, not just in what we're doing, but in the market as a whole. So customers are increasingly embracing more and more digitalization. So 35% of the industry leaders have migrated to AM and machine learning cloud systems, not necessarily in chemical reaction space yet, but I think what we're seeing is that uptake is following where they're using AI and machine learning platforms elsewhere, for example, in things like clinical trials. There is acceptance across the board in the industry. This is not just from what we see, but from the whole industry as a whole, that human-machine interface, where you've got more automated, more predictable and more scalable processes, is ultimately a way of driving better margins within the pharmaceutical companies themselves, but also in trying to ensure that they do really good, high-quality, repeatable science. There are labour cost benefits for the digitization and time, and a massive reduction in errors, reducing human contact with data processes. And so, I think what I would ask you to think about when thinking about DEEPMATTER is not only our direct growth, but the growth of the industry around us. And that presents us with an amazing opportunity to be the future of chemical reaction data. It wouldn't be appropriate to not go through a presentation in the current era without talking a little bit about ESG. And I'm not going to talk about the ESG policies that we have within DEEPMATTER itself, but it's actually the interplay of what we do with the ESG policies of our customers. So the pharmaceutical companies are focused on providing accessible medicines to their customer base, but also providing a safe and sustainable work environment for their employees and the communities that surround them. Our platform focuses on increasingly on placing distance between chemists and between dangerous materials. And I think that resonates well with providing a great, safe working environment for our customers. The second is that the better productivity gains that we impart to our customer bases will ultimately lead to lower energy usage, a key focus for any sort of pharmaceutical company looking to impart a good ESG policy. And finally, we are, as a company ourselves, and we announced with the University of Nottingham earlier this year, focused increasingly as well on ensuring chemistry is sustainable. So whereas before, a lot of chemistry is done with nasty organic chemical reactions, we want to move to what are called aqueous phase reactions in water, which are much safer and more environmentally friendly. And we are building a dedicated repository for that sustainable chemistry, which we know we are seeing a draw from the industry. So I think that summarizes sort of the market space that we're operating in, the areas that we're operating in, and the opportunity that is available to us. Now I'd like to move into sort of recent developments and focus on some of the points about execution that I summarized at the beginning. So we've got increasing commercial traction, and I would point you to probably the standout deals for the year were the one that we did with Merck to provide proprietary reaction data and chemical content for a selected application that they were engaged in. And that continues with payments that we receive and ultimately with royalties downstream. Secondly, we have our co-distribution agreement, which provides us with much better reach into North America than we previously had with Elemental Machines to promote our products. And that's resulted in a building pipeline that we hope to be able to convert in this second half. The second is around data growth and technology integrations. So it is important that we not only stand alone as a platform for our customer base, but that we talk to every other aspect of what they're doing in the chemical reaction space. We're not a company that focuses on large-scale analytical hardware, but this is an important part of the process for doing chemical reactions in the pharmaceutical companies. So we must engage with those technologies. And then we also want to be able to drive the automated robotics. And so our collaborations this year announced with Cambridge, with the University of Leeds, and the University of Nottingham are all underpinning a focus on trying to develop fully digital integrated workflows for the scientific community and also create value from automated precision manufacturing approaches with novel data, with important applications for those users. So things like sustainable chemistry. And finally, with the raising awareness in our industry of our business, we've actually become a bit of a key opinion leader as well as a provider of products and services to the market. With that, Bryn Roberts, who global head of operations for preclinical discovery, fundamentally the most important focus of our business. Roche joined our board earlier this year. He provides amazing oversight in terms of the way our customers think, but also a great sort of Rolodex of contacts that we use now in our sales leads. Second, I was appointed to chair the Industrial Advisory Board for Imperial College's sort of next generation synthesis and reaction technology CDT. This gives me reach to the heads of research, all the large pharmaceutical companies on a routine basis, where we're discussing the emergence of new technology in our space, and where data that we create, structure, analyse and provide is now central to their strategies. And finally, Mirko Walter joined the board from Springer Nature this year, and that's a great reach through to our scientific publishing partners who also have an interest in how chemical reaction data is used to create monetizable value in their industry. Some of the things that we don't talk to in the sort of routine RNSs throughout the year are also probably worth us touching on in terms of our progress for the first half of this year. We have focused heavily on ensuring that our sales and marketing team are effectively reaching out to our customer base, delivering good sales opportunities, and ultimately being able to convert those. The digital engagement that we've done through our sales and marketing is massively up this year, and that's resulted in a lot of new sales opportunities, building our pipeline for the next couple of years. We've appointed a dedicated services team lead to ensure that we not only deliver on our current contractual arrangements, but actually we're able to grow those and grow the relationships that we have with our partners. We've now consolidated all of our software development across Munich and Glasgow into one team, and that means we deliver our product sprint cycles more effectively, and actually we have better and more routine delivery of new product to our customers, which is resonating with them when we're out on the road. And finally, we want to create value from our underlying data that we own. So there's data that belongs to our customers, but there is data and intellectual property we own ourselves. And we've brought together our research function under the leadership of chemical technologies expert, Dr. David Parry, who has an extensive pharma experience at businesses like UCB and Celtec, but also has led closed-loop drug discovery efforts, which resonate with our focus on AI-driven chemical automation. I think it's worth then just touching a little bit on our customer engagement. So our renewals base is up, and the new focus on growing revenues with those customers, as I described with the customer services lead, is proving productive. We've secured a number of new customers, not necessarily at a materiality level yet, with good, strong industry pedigree, and I think that bodes well for our future. And our focus on the CRO market that I think we talked to at our full year results has actually started to really yield results. And during that period, we've seen an active increase in the number of users, up 47% versus our numbers last year. And then in terms of customer feedback, we have had some feedback that has forced us to refocus our development roadmap to, depending on the user type. So there is a difference in pharmaceutical companies from those in the CRO market. They have different needs of the way that they use their data. The scalability of our platform across different territories and accelerating specific capabilities. But we take that in our stride, and I think our active trials are up further, and we're seeing a good rate of conversion in our trials actually. So I think it's reasonable to say that 40% of trials are now converting into full revenue generating deals. 50% or so at the moment remain in negotiation, and we've only had 10% of those trials which have actually fallen away and not converted into a subsequent deal. So with that overview of recent developments, I'm going to hand over to Fraser to give us an update on the financials and other data.
Thank you, Mark, and good morning from me. I'm going to keep the sort of summary of the financials fairly high level, and at the end I'll just outline where you can find the detailed statements, just to make sure that that is entirely clear. So I think looking at our financials for the first half of the year, what we're presenting today is a solid set of results, which, as Mark has outlined, sort of reinforces the positive momentum that we feel, and I think outlines again sort of a continuation of the progress, and the themes that we partly talked about at our full year presentation sort of 6 months ago. So from a revenue perspective, we see solid revenue of 0.65 million. That is up slightly on first half of 2020. And really that just serves to highlight the fact that we have a strong foundation of renewals business, and that we're starting, again, as Mark has outlined in some of the statistics you've seen, starting to make progress against, I guess, some of the sectors that we have identified that we should be going after, and really making the most of the trials that we have had in our pipeline and starting to convert those. From an R&D perspective, our spend has increased, so 0.86 million in the half year versus, on a cash basis, 0.71 million last year. So we are spending more and more on R&D. And I think, that is something that we are very committed to doing. We want and need to make progress along our product development roadmaps. And as Mark has outlined, we have a quality of customer feedback which is enabling us to really focus on what customers think is important. We're enabling us to also focus on different user types to which our products are attractive. And we're working on improving the scalability of the products as well, so that we really are ready for the growth we have planned over the future years. In contrast, our overhead costs are slightly lower, which I think highlights that we are continuing to run a cost-effective operation. And I think also highlights that really we are determined to deploy every pound in the best way to make sure we maximise the return on our investment. And so, as you can see, in this first half year, that has meant an increase in our R&D spending and a slight reduction in our overheads. It may be that our overheads move in a different way in future quarters, but I think we really are prioritising our R&D spend at the moment to make sure that our products are as good as they can be, and really looking to fortify our position as a leader in digitalisation. The result of that is that our loss for the first half of the year is slightly up at 1.38 million, and that is just largely, very simply, increased due to that increased R&D spending that we've just covered. Our cash position, 1.8 million of cash at the half year. That's a movement from 2.6 million at the end of 2020. Again, just highlighting that we are looking at how we spend every pound, and preserving cash, where that is possible. But as I say, again, I reiterate, the R&D spend is something that we are very, very keen to do to really cement our position as a leader in this market. I think that's probably where I will finish the sort of high-level overview and the themes that I think are important to pull out. Anyone who is looking for, obviously, the full financial statements, they are available as part of the RNS that came out this morning. And this presentation will be available on our website anytime now, and they are in the appendix to this presentation. With that, Mark, back to you.
Thank you very much, Fraser. So as we move on, what I want to do is give you a short sort of outlook, and then we'll take a pause after that to review any questions that have come in during the session, and answer questions that have been pre-submitted. So, I want to just iterate from the points that we've made earlier. We're excited by the opportunity that we're presented with in the digitalisation of chemistry, and as a leader driving the market shift. The first half of this year has seen us really make some positive momentum with increased commercial traction, agreements with both Merck and Elemental, I think I've talked to earlier, our developed data growth strategy with those leading university partners, and cementing our industry relationships with key managerial appointments, both internally and externally to DEEPMATTER. The first half progress, we have focused on that integration and strengthening of our operational structure to ensure that we deliver revenues in a timely manner and that we can build and that we've got scalability within the business. We've secured a number of new customers with strong industry pedigree, and those active users are up by some 48%. And the development roadmap that we have is prioritised to address user type, scalability of product, and accelerate very specific capabilities that we're hearing back from our customer base are important to them day in, day out. The really encouraging outlook, increasing confidence to deliver in growing markets, an international footprint with blue chip customer base and key commercial relationships, strong renewals base, new focus on growing revenues for those customers, and continuing to resource the sales and R&D capabilities. But importantly, this is all to enable us to deliver planned growth and performance for 2021 and beyond. And there will always be the question, what do your forecasts look like? And you know that we're unable to answer those directly, but more data on the group is available in a recent note issued by Alex Brooke, Canaccord, which, if you're not a Canaccord client, is also available through the Research Tree platform. So I just want to leave you with one last message. You know, we are established as a leader in the digitalisation of chemistry and driving market shift. We're building and commercialising a fully integratable, scalable platform that is the future of chemical reaction data. And the industry is increasingly turning to us for that capability. And with that, I'm going to end the presentation and hand back to IMC while we review the questions that have come in.
That's great. Thank you, Mark Fraser, for updating investors this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. But just while the company take a few moments to review those questions submitted already, I'd like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your Investor Meet Company dashboard. I'd also like to remind you that your feedback is important to the company, and immediately after this presentation has ended, you'll be redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the company can better understand your views and expectations. Mark Fraser, obviously investors had the ability to pre-submit questions, along with you've received a number of questions during the presentation itself. Perhaps I can hand back to you now just to read through those questions, and where appropriate to give a response. That would be great.
So we're just looking at the questions here. Okay, so what I'd like to do, I think, is I'm going to aggregate up the first batch of questions under a topic of share price combined with our focus of activities and our engagement with shareholders. So there's a number of questions around this area. And I think it's important to say that you know, our sales, development and support activities are absolutely focused on us generating planned growth and performance for 2021 and beyond. So our primary aim is to grow our revenue base and our capabilities for our business to mean that we're sustainable with our customers in the future. The shareholder engagement that we have at the same time, we remain in touch with all of our main shareholders to try and ensure that they remain aware of what we do and supportive of what we do. But obviously we're not directly in control of our share price, but we are sensitive to the need of our shareholders at any one time. And that's answering one of the questions. Another question that is in there is there a potential revenue stream for sale of consumables once companies are using your physical products? So I think the first thing to say is that we're primarily a data company. The hardware that we build and distribute is an enabler to our core platform, and that we don't have a consumables business model. So I think if there's more questions about that in due course, then we'll take those. There's a question about our engagement with Novartis that we announced last year. So we have an ongoing engagement with Novartis, and we anticipate being able to talk about that in due course. I'm not able to say anything more about that right now. Fraser, I don't know if you want to answer. I think any of these.
I think I saw there's a question about the academic area as an opportunity. So I think broadly we do see the academic area as an opportunity. Obviously, we have academic partnerships already, but what we also see is that our products do fit into an academic environment, and we are looking at ways to make that affordable for academic users by potentially having slightly slimmed down versions. That is something that's currently in a trial phase at the moment. So it's something we're certainly very aware of and are working on.
So the question about revenues for digital glassware, and I think what we know is that we've executed a number of deals where the revenues for digital glassware will appear in the second half of this year. And obviously, we're not able to pre-announce what those revenues are, but I would encourage you again to look to the analyst notes for future forecasts. A question about the company reaching profitability and also a break even, and again, I would encourage you. We're not able to answer specific questions about forecasts, but I encourage you to try and get your hands on the analyst note if you can. And I think the last question we've got is a question about the increase of 47% in the number of users. I don't know if, Fraser, you want to talk a little bit about the user numbers.
Yeah, so that 47% is versus H1 of last year. We have users currently in the hundreds, and obviously we are hopeful with the pipeline that we have that will be an increasing number, and obviously that's one of the sort of key KPIs that we will continue to update shareholders on in these sessions.
And do you want to talk about the number of trials that are ongoing and proportion at the moment as well?
Yeah, so we have, as we've said, sort of a 14% increase in the number of trials. I think that takes us up to about eight trials going on at the moment. So we have a decent number of both trials going on at the moment and users who are associated with those trials. And it's probably worth mentioning, with our products, we do get people to pay, we do charge for our trials, but it is not a significant part of our revenue. We think it's important to charge people so that they take the trials seriously. But we know that there is resistance. We hear this from a number of different sources, that there is resistance to sort of paying significantly for trials of our products. So our trials typically, are in the single-digit thousands, and then they convert into full licenses and full rollouts.
Okay. I think the last two specific questions that we're going to answer, the first of those is who are your main competitors? So I think in the operating space that we're in, we are focused as digitalisation of chemistry, and that makes us sort of unique a little bit in our market. However, we do run into some of the electronic lab notebook companies and also some of the large hardware life science providers and some of the scientific publishers who equally have data strategies which are not necessarily entirely overlapping with ours, but do impinge in some of that space. We also come across businesses which I wouldn't describe as competitors, but are peers in the therapeutic drug discovery space. And I would point you to businesses like Exscientia and Arcturus, who I think are organizations which demonstrate not only that there is real value in the digitalization of the scientific data, but also that the opportunity for growth is extraordinarily large. The last question I'm going to answer is on the funding strategy of the business. There's a recognition that we are loss-making right now. That's not a surprise for a technology growth business of the nature that we're operating in. And we are ambitious and we want to turbocharge our business. We look at a range of funding strategies at any one time. Everything from just pure play revenues through to strategic deals that we can do in the market, and possibly the opportunity to do further equity deals in due course. But we have no specific timings or view on that right now.
Mark,
so with that,
that's great. Mark, Fraser, thank you very much. And thank you also to the investors that have taken time to submit questions today. And of course, we'll make available to the company all questions that have been submitted today. Mark, Fraser, I know investor feedback is important to you, and we'll shortly redirect investors to give you their thoughts and expectations. But before doing so, perhaps I could just ask you for a few closing comments, and then I'll redirect investors.
So I think just to say, established as leader in digitalisation and chemistry, driving the market shift, positive momentum H1, good half year, progress operationally, and an encouraging outlook. And I would say, building, commercialising, fully integrated scaling platform is, a job that we see real value in for our customers because they are the ones that will be accessing the future of chemical reaction data.
Mark, Fraser, thank you very much indeed for updating investors this morning. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as we'll automatically redirect you for the opportunity to provide feedback in order that the management team can really better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of DEEPMATTER Group PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending this morning's presentation. That now concludes today's session, and good morning to you all.